before people used to kind of line up in front of the stores, like record stores to buy tickets when they went on sale. They would sit outside on the sidewalk. And now, because of computers and the internet, you could go on Ticketmaster and buy tickets very quickly. And if you had 10 computers, you could buy 10 pairs of tickets very, very quickly.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and the wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we are with Brian, which is the founder of ticketattendant.com. So Brian, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
Hey, Harry, how's it going? When I think of different keys to success that I would suggest to other people, I think some of them, a strong work ethic. I think you have to be kind of willing to put in the extra time, have that desire to be successful and that kind of ambition. I think there needs to be, continuous learning and self-improvement, as you kind of progress through your business and through your career, in order to, achieve some success. Kind of in parallel to that, but I would say more from a business perspective, I think the abilities to adapt to change, what we're currently doing now, is not what we started out doing as a software company.
Absolutely.
It evolved as we found, our footing for what worked best for us. I think, being persistent, and being, resilient, is certainly part of a small business owner. You're going to face, challenges that you might want to ask for help for, and sometimes it's just not there because it's kind of your business, and you kind of have to make those decisions, and they're hard, and you just kind of have to get it through it sometimes. And then I would also say, being creative about how you leverage technology. If you're able to think outside of the box and figure out a way to do something either better or more efficiently, than your competition, and kind of create an edge for yourself. I think that can also pave the way for success.
Yeah.
So,
Brian, so tell us, why do you decide to become a tech entrepreneur? Do you have a tech business before? What happened there?
yeah, so I actually started out in college, as a working for somebody who was buying and selling tickets already. It was kind of an interesting time. It was I was in college in 2002, and it was right when computers, with high-speed connections were becoming the best way to buy tickets. Before, people used to kind of line up in front of the stores, like record stores to buy tickets when they went on sale. They would sit outside on the sidewalk. And now, because of computers and the internet, you could go on Ticketmaster and buy tickets very quickly. And if you had 10 computers, you could buy 10 pairs of tickets very, very quickly. And so when I came to college at the University of Missouri in 2000, around 2000, I started working for somebody who was taking orders from ticket brokers, saying, hey, if you can get these seats for us, we will pay you $5 a ticket. And so, I would go to the computer lab and work for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, get 16 tickets and make $80. And, I was like,
Wow.
for somebody in college to make, like 80
Wow.
bucks in like an hour is great, and it wasn't always like, it's not like a 40-hour-a-week job. And sometimes you wouldn't always get, all the tickets, but it was exciting and it was, kind of fun. It was certainly better than, working at a computer lab. And so, I did that throughout college. I got a computer science undergraduate degree. but I was not very good at programming. I kind of had like a B or a C average. I didn't like it. I always was more geared towards business. I kind of like, the buying and the selling of the tickets and kind of that thing. And when I finished undergraduate college, which was in 2002, it was right when there was the big dot-com bust it was like the pets.com bust. And there were just a ton of good engineers out on the market. I did not feel strong at all about my skill set, and so I decided to go get my MBA. While I was getting my MBA, I kind of bought in with a guy who I had been doing tickets with, and started doing software with him, or excuse me, started doing tickets with him full time, and we continued to do tickets together until like 2009 when he split off. Um, I kept doing tickets and I was really enjoying it until around 2013. And around 2013, I had been, using our software that I was kind of like starting to develop internally for our own purposes to have better operations. So one of the challenges with selling tickets is if you have a pair of front row seats for Taylor Swift or Metallica or one of these concerts, and you have them up on these 10 different secondary marketplaces, whether it's StubHub or Vivid Seats or back in the time it was eBay, and you sell these tickets more than once, it's a very bad consumer experience because you only have one pair of tickets, and you can't just get another pair of tickets easily. It's not like if I have iPhones and I oversell too many
I
iPhones, I can
understand.
just call the supplier. So, our software was developed out of a need for our ticket company where it would help us keep our inventory live, by monitoring our emails for sales. And when we got a sale, it would update our inventory, kind of in a much more real-time process. And
Wow.
eventually this got
So you guys
yeah,
developed this software.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we kind of developed this process of like, hey, we would get an email notification for a sale, and then we would delete it, the record from like we had like a file upload that we would send to these companies, that was like a comma separated file, and it would have a list of all the inventory and our prices and all that. And so then we would delete it out of this comma separated file and then upload it, automatically instead of having to do this manual process. So we were kind of, doing like an FTP upload after we would parse the email and delete it from the CSV file.
But how do you know that you could make money with this?
I
How?
didn't. I didn't at all. We were doing it because it was, again, it was almost like uh,
To make
for
it
our own
for you.
internal survival. It was taking up so much time. The next day we would double sell all these tickets, and it was a bad experience for like our team and our clients. That it was just like, hey, let's try and remove some of this friction from the process, and see if we can automate something. We had already been familiar with, like I said, I had a computer science degree. And there was already some technology involved in the ticket ecosystem with kind of like these file uploads and things like that. So there was a background for it that I kind of got to build upon. But like I said, I coming out of school, I was not confident at all in my programming skills. I was not like a standout programmer or anything. Um, and so, that's kind of we started, hiring, like an engineer or a contractor, internationally as well to
Develop the
help
software.
us start develop the software. Yeah. And then, once we were up and using it for our own company, the exchanges, these bigger companies where we sell tickets through, started to notice because our metrics for them were so good. Um, and one thing where it did generate a little bit of money for us was our metrics were so good with them that they actually started giving us a rebate on our sales because, our sales took,
Wow.
because we were like, there was something like an expectation of like 95 at the time, this, which was about, you know, probably 10 to 15 years ago now, there was an expectation that like, hey, 95 to 97% of the orders you have to, hit. And so we were hitting 99%,
Wow.
and so we would qualify for because it was automated. So, you know what I mean? It was kind of like not cheating, but it wasn't going to mess up, you know? And so that was eventually how I ended up kind of getting into the software business. I really liked being a ticket broker. You know, it's different than software because it's kind of like being
completely different ball game. I think company is completely different ball game, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because being a ticket broker, you know, it's kind of like being a stockbroker versus like owning like kind of like a stock exchange. You know, so if you own the stock exchange, you know, just like us as a software company or as like a credit card processor like Visa, you know, you don't really have a ton of risk out there. You know, most of it is like, hey, we're going to take a small percentage of each transaction and, you know, go about our business. You know, we try and make the best product, you know, streamline things, you know, when you're a ticket broker or, you know, a stock trader using one of these platforms, you know, you can make, you know, or lose, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. You know, we see clients, you know, will make, you know, $50,000 on a tour, and then they might lose $20,000 on a tour, you know? And so yeah, you have a totally different level of risk than, you know, hey, I'd say we're going to make anywhere from, you know, 2 to 5% or something on every transaction, you know, and try and, you know, monetize that way. Of course, we want our clients to be successful and them to make money, but it's like for us, it's more of a focus of like just making sure that we have transactions passing through the system and that the system stays up and, you know, is real time. Because as a transaction-based company, you know, where it's like we're taking a percentage of each transaction, if our software goes down, if we're offline, you know, we might never see that transaction again. Absolutely. It could transact somewhere else, you know, just like if you can't take credit cards as a business and then somebody says, okay, well, I'll just pay cash, you know, now Visa loses that money, you know? So there's kind of that part of it where it's much more of being a reliable partner to our clients and, you know, being stable. Uptime, you know, is extremely important to them, especially, you know, our clients will sell tickets, you know, sometimes 15 minutes before an event starts. And so if our system, yeah, you know, it's very, very real time, you know, and so, you know,
how you
manage
to make the technology to work? Because number one, so you guys start to develop the software to actually to operate better internally. And after you discovered that using this software as a service, you guys can make a little bit more. So it was your partners who tell us that they want to partner with you because of the result you have?
Yeah, it was actually, you know, on these big exchanges that we sell through where we were having very good metrics. They actually approached us, one of them, which was Vivid Seats, who's gone public, you know, since then. So they said they didn't do too bad either. And you know, they actually approached us and said, hey, you know, we will pay for, you know, the first 25 clients for 6 months of, you know, the service, you know, if you'll onboard them and kind of start getting it going. And so that was for me kind of the day that I was like, okay, you know, I guess it's time to do this. You know, I had kind of avoided it at the start because I liked being a ticket broker. I liked, you know, those highs and those lows and that excitement. But in the end, I felt like I would be kind of foolish to pass up this opportunity where somebody was offering me.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.